Hey friends, Graham here from therecordingrevolution.com, and today I want to show you something that I'm calling the heavy Mixbus theory. This is nothing I've invented. I've been doing this for a while. I've called this top-down mixing before, but this is just the first part of top-down mixing. This is focusing on loading up your Mixbus with plugins that will give you maximum impact on your mix so you have less work to do when you go down to the individual tracks. Like this mix in particular. All these tracks are in red or drums, hardly any plugins, okay? Nothing on the percussion, nothing on the guitars really, a couple of EQs and compressors, sparse processing on the synths and keys, little processing on the vocals, a little bit more processing on these gray tracks, which are my subgroups, so my guitar tracks, in my bass group, my keys group, my vocal group. But on here on the right, there's 5 plugins on my master fader, my Mixbus, same thing. And they are doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And I want to show you that right now, and then I'll explain why, and also explain something that I learned at NAMM. I'm going to press play, you're going to hear the mix, and then I'm going to bypass what's on the master fader, and you're going to hear how completely the mix falls apart.
Will you feel my long companion through the fall? Winter's end is here, and I've been remembered after all. For every broken thing inside me, beauty makes the trade. And with the world, the rolling and revealing every low disguise, and I am known and living in the knowledge of a man alive. All that is wasted, arriving right on time.
Right, very night and day difference, and you hear a lot of different things change. Obviously, there's a little bit more gain happening, so I know people want to jump on that. Yes, the mix got a little bit louder. That's part of the gig. If I could avoid that, I would. But for today's demonstration, don't pay attention to how the mix got louder. I can make any mix louder with a limiter. I'm not going for loudness. Listen to how the mix changed tonally, got brighter in a musical way, opened up. A lot of the mud went away. So there's more clarity. There's more energy. There's more punch. And it's a little bit wider in the stereo field. Okay, so all that's happening with 5 plugins, and it's very drastic. Here's the deal. If I can get my mix closer to finished with only a handful of plugins on my Mixbus, instead of 20 to 30 plugins on my individual tracks, then why wouldn't I do it? It's fewer plugins, which means more CPU power on my native system, so my computer won't choke. It's more minimalistic, which I'm a huge fan of. Less clutter, less to think about, fewer things to tweak. It's more fun because you can get farther faster. Here's how this worked in my process. I pulled up these tracks, and they're already in really good shape, by the way. This is something we've been working on for this month's dueling mixes for our members over there. And we like to give them tracks sometimes that are really, really good shape. And this is a great example, though. So it didn't take a lot of work, but I got most of my mix with these 5 plugins. I'm going to show you really quickly what the plugins are, but it doesn't matter. I'm doing some Mixbus compression, okay? This is the VBC from Slate Digital. I'm doing some saturation and EQ, okay? So I've carved out around 360 on the entire mix, that's really clearing up a lot, and a slight shelf boost here, as well as some saturation. Got another EQ, okay, because this is just a very musical sounding EQ. I really like this on global mixes. Some multiband compression. Okay, that's the only thing Ozone's doing. I'm gonna show you this setting in another video, because this is really cool. And then some tape saturation, which does, again, it's kind of like EQ and a compressor in one. It absorbs some transients, adds some harmonic content, and compresses the mix a little bit. So it's a combination of compression, EQ, and saturation on my Mixbus. The specific plugins don't matter. The point is what I did with them. And you can use any plugins you have. The point is when I mixed, I threw some plugins on here, experimented with them, experimented with their settings, and all I did was mix with the faders for like 2 hours on this song. I literally spent almost 2 hours rebalancing, tweaking the mix bus before I added any plugins on the individual tracks or group tracks. And this was solidified at NAMM for me 2 weeks ago. Went to NAMM, and at the Waves booth, Greg Wells and Joe West, a bunch of guys were there, but Greg Wells and Joe West, they presented back to back, and both of them were doing the exact same thing. It was uncanny. I had almost just finished this mix before I flew out there, and they both got up there and pulled up sessions that looked a lot like this. They had 5 to 6 plugins on their mix bus, and they showed us what they were doing, and if you looked at their tracks, there was nothing else on them. It looked like this. And they mentioned that. Someone said, "Hey, Joe, how did you get that drum sound?" And he said, "I don't really have any plugins on my drums." He said, "I'm just kind of hitting the parallel compression and hitting my mix bus really hard. And the mix bus is what's changing the tone of my drums." Greg Wells did the same thing. He said, "Yeah, I've got a ton of stuff going on my mix bus, and there's not much going on my individual tracks. And it sounds good that way." And it was very interesting to me. So I'm bringing this to you to get you to think. On your next mix, try the heavy mix bus theory. Not that this will replace the way you mix. This isn't a replacement for mixing. This is a starting point. I would encourage you to balance your mix with just the volume fader and pan for like an hour anyway. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Then, if you want to, pull up some plugins on your master fader. I love Mixbus Compression. I showed you that recently. Mix into that. If you want some saturation on your mix bus, mix into that. If the mix sounds muddy, why not put an EQ in your mix bus and carve out some of that low mid-range, 400, 500, 300, whatever it is, to clean up your mix. If it needs a little bit more top end, why not use a little bit of a shelf on an EQ on your mix bus to get it for the whole mix and be done with it? Okay? Why not experiment with stuff on your mix bus and see if you can't get your mix from point A to point C pretty quickly, so that when you go to the individual tracks, it's going to take minimal work, minimal EQ, nothing extreme, because your mix is already there. So I wanted to share that with you, the heavy mix bus theory. Leave a comment. Let me know if you've already done this, if you've applied this maybe through the top-down mixing approach I've talked about, or if you've seen other guys do this, or if you found a success with it. If you've never tried it, let me know how you might try it, what you think you might throw on your mix bus. I'm a huge fan of getting a lot of bang for a little buck. So if I can get a lot of mix for fewer plugins, I'm going to do it. So share your thoughts on how you might implement the heavy mix bus theory on your next mix. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing to the videos. If you want more content like this and even more in-depth stuff, sign up on the mailing list. You'll get all my free tools, the #1 rule of home recording, Smart Start to Mixing video series. It's all free, and you'll get my best tips direct to your inbox. We can go in a lot more depth about some of this stuff that I can't really talk about over here on YouTube because I don't have a lot of time. Hope that helps. Have a great week. Make some great music this week. We'll see you in another video soon.